Right, I think this is all set up now. Can you hear me okay? I've got this set for low latency, although I think there is still 15 seconds of latency. So it's been a few years since I've done a live stream, so I think everything's set up. I've got my main display set up over here. I forget it's not a camera, you can't see my fingers, but and I've got a condenser mic set up as well. So if you see me leaning to the side, I'm either looking at my laptop screen or looking into the mic to talk. So I think, so look, I'll just close Slack to save a bit of resources. So I've got my YouTube live view on my left hand monitor and there's a massive latency on it, so I can see that. And it's quite distracting. And I've got OBS set up on my left screen as well, but that displays like a half-second latency, so it's distracting having both at once. But hopefully the chat should be fairly low latency. Anyway, what I've got here is, this is how we left off the video at the last episode. So this is the, let's close these old windows. So I think this is the Elimish test. So I'll go ahead and run it to make sure it still works. If I keep looking to the left, it's because I'm looking at the chat window. So I'll launch this away, and this should, it's popped up on my other window. And it's 18 seconds of latency. So anyway, there's our skeleton's there on the screen and it moves. You notice this one isn't animated because it's the Elimish that we've done from the first episode. If you also, I'll zoom into this. If you zoom right into this guy and move him about, I don't know whether you can notice, but certain places we've got dithering on the skeleton. Like there, the image is pretty crisp, but then you move slightly upwards, like that frame there, you can see it's quite dithered, and this is because of subpixel smoothing. Now, this live stream isn't about that, but if I just point that out in case you've noticed when I be moving about, you can see a slight flicker, and this is a subpixel smoothing. Like that image there is crisp, and that's what it should look like. And this is an artifact of when we move our sprite, we move it as a float 32, and it may or may not be on a pixel boundary. So when it is on a pixel boundary, it's nice and crisp like that. So that's the first thing I was going to point out. The next thing that I thought I'd do on this live stream was to look at making this hot reload. So there's a hot reloader that's in Fabulous which uses another project from GitHub called Porter Code, and it includes it uses Packet to reference source files to include the interpreter and such like. And there's another one called FCS Watch, which is exactly the same, but it's got a better DLL reloading capability, and it also has the interpreted reloading capability. So what we're going to do is close out of this and bring up a terminal. And let's see if I can make this more sensible size using Z shell here. So hopefully the audio is okay for this and that you can hear me. I mean, the audiometer says that it's kind of like minus 3 dB on average, so I'm guessing it's okay as long as it's streaming that. So I think it's FCS Watch. So I've installed this as a global tool, and I'll quickly bring up a brand new window. For FCS Watch. And this is a library by Humpy, and essentially it allows you to do hot reloading of a DLL. And there was another library by someone recently that done the what was it? Okay, good that you can hear me. The latency's really long. I even set it to ultra low latency, which is, I hate to see what normal latency is like. So anyway, there's another library called, I forgot what it is called. It uses Web Sharper Blare Auto Live Reload. Anyway, this uses FCS Watch because it can do binary reloading, which is the normal option. Will do binary loading. Like when I launched it here, it tried to do a binary load, and it failed because it can't understand our target, which is a WinExe. Now, FCS Watch only accepts EXE targets and DLL. WinExe is exactly the same as EXE, so we can change the target in here. So if we just change that to EXE, this should allow this to load. So the standard FCS Watch should look at the current local project, and it should run it and rebuild whenever there's a change detected on disk. So if I bring this across to my main window, got a little skeleton there, blue background, and you can see all the updates going on in the background for the position. Now all these position updates and printing it on trace update is very CPU expensive, and it takes 2 or 3% from the CPU to do this. So I always turn this off in debug. It's amazing how much faster it runs with all this text output turned off. So if I position this over here and I'll make this window, I can't remember the shortcuts for these. Oh, yeah, quarter window. I'll put that actually down the bottom quadrant. Don't really need to see this. And get a skeleton over the top right. Get VS Code to be just half the screen. It's a bit narrow, but I'll do. And then, in theory, I think we should be able to look at our view and change this to green yellow. Save that, and this should reload as a binary, which it has, but it's put it on my secondary monitor. You can see we've got a green screen now. So this is kind of nice, but it's not ideal, because I'd like it to be seamless, because it's kind of a bit annoying going from screen to screen. We can probably keep this in the main window as well. Can't remember how to do that. Anyway, rather than reloading every time, it'd be better if we could use some sort of interpreter to reload it like it does in Fabulous. So we can try to do that now. So this is kind of like a experimental stream. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we'll see if we can make it work. So what we did to actually get this to reload the DLL was just to install this global tool. So before the stream started, I did a .NET tool install global SCS watch CLI. Now, to make this work with an interpreter, we kind of need to probably move our component parts into different projects, because otherwise I don't think it will work. What I'll do is we'll try it. So quit out of this, and what we can do let's kill these spare tabs. No, that's the wrong one. So what we'll first of all do is make a new directory, source, go inside source and make another directory called core. And now we can do .NET new, can't remember the syntax, and we'll make a class lib. And I think it's -- language. For some reason, I don't think lang works. It's just F#. Yep. Right, so now we've got a new project which should be blank. Go back in VS Code, make that full screen, and kind of look at our library. So call this Elimish core, because otherwise core can get confused with F# core. So the compiler will complain if you've got something called core, because it expects that F# has been implicitly opened, or Microsoft F# implicitly opened, so it thinks core, when you're referring to core, it's actually F# core, which is really annoying. But so we can get rid of this, and now if we move our gubbins from here, let's grab that whole lot and we'll just paste it in here, and that should give us our Elimish core. And that'll be in a separate directory. We need to add XNA references. So back in here, and we can do to start using packet now. So make a directory called packet, and then we can copy. I think I've got this in downloads. Packet bootstrap. So we'll copy this to just packet.exe, which will mean it'll run in magic mode, which will download the new version of packet. I think I've already got an alias for packet, so when we actually run packet, it should be running. Okay. Yeah, this is it's a good subject for a stream, but it's also fairly difficult, I think, because I've kind of tried similar things before and the interpreter's failed because it only supports a small part of the different types of F# bindings. So I think once we get a little bit further in, you'll find that it kind of breaks a bit, and I'm hoping we can at least advance knowledge on what is broken and try and fix it. But you can see at least we can do the reloading of entire binaries, even if it does respawn a new screen each time. It's not ideal, but it's probably a more pleasant experience than having to rebuild each time. Probably saves a few seconds anyway. Right, so we need to. I thought I'd copy packet into here. But I guess I didn't do it. So /downloads. Right, it's there now. So if we run packet, it should be there. I've got a bunch of aliases set up, so you can see right at the bottom there is a packet alias. Packet equals mono.packet packet.exe. So next thing, let me think. So we're not packet. Convert from NuGet. So let's just wait for packet to finish. We'll have to add a reference to, let me think. MonoGame. That's what, yeah, the XNA reference is in MonoGame. So in packet references, we've got MonoGame set up in there. Packet dependencies. Looks like that's all set up. And so we've got the content binder. And if you wonder what NES is an extension for MonoGame which has extras for various things like virtual controller pads. There's also extra things. I kind of added a reference to that, but I'm not actually using any of it yet. My fans just started going mental on my laptop if you can hear a hissing sound. Not sure what's using the CPU. MDS stars. It's been updated. So let me think. It's hard keeping my train of thought on a live stream. I'm not actually used to talking my thoughts out loud as I'm doing something, so it kind of introduces context switching in my thoughts. So it takes some getting used to. I think it's about 2-3 years since I've done the live streams. The last one I did was what was it? The Soothsayer plugin for VS Code to show F# signatures, which is quite an interesting one. Kind of got 4 or 5 parallel views at the same time for a few of those streams before I kind of stopped doing them when I moved house, because the upload capability when I moved in was quite low. It was only about 3 or 4 megs the upload, so you kind of need 3. Yeah, there is a lot of people like to see people fail on a live stream. Well, not fail, but I think as a developer, programmer, developer, whatever you want to call it, it's always the expectation that everybody else is kind of watching and thinks that everything is seamless, like the connection between you and the computer is instantaneous. You get an idea, you code, and then everything just magically works. But the reality is everything's broken most of the time, and you're just fixing fires. But when you're live streaming, it's not. It kind of feels that you're being judged and all of that. So, lost my train of thought now. So packet dependency should be there. So if we get our library, we should be able to get that to build now. So packet add. I've got the syntax for that. Packet add project. So what the MonoGame reference to the project, which is inside source core proj. So that should add as a MonoGame reference. And in theory, those red squiggles should go for Microsoft.xna. Hopefully. Yep, there we go. So I think everything works in this now. It looks like it. And if we go back to our main program, of course Elimish game won't be there because we now need to open Elimish core. Of course there's no reference to that, so you can go to project references, add project reference, and we'll add a reference to core. So now that should make Elimish core disappear. And now if we run again, it should in theory run. Doesn't. Right. Got a bad reference to that file because we deleted the whole contents of a file. So it's Elimish program, we just need to remove that guy. Let's do rename. Oh yeah. Seem to have locked up VS Code. You can go weeks and weeks without breaking VS Code. Start a live stream, break it instantly. Right, so we'll nuke VS Code. Start it back up again. Remove the file. This should make the error go away. Right. So if you're wondering about the next video is going to be on adding the camera to our game. What's going on with this? No such file. It's because I just removed it. Let's see if it runs now anyway. And then, yeah, as I said, the next video is going to be on adding the camera so that the camera will follow the sprite on the screen. And I'll also, what's this now? Content file not found. Okay, what I reckon's happened is when we told Ionide to remove the file, it decided to also mess about with the project file and remove the content. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's deleted the content file. See, we've got the content included, but there's no actual... Whenever you include content into MonoGame, it actually converts the contents of the original file into a version that's ideal for loading and that will use less memory and such like. So I think it converts most JPEGs and PNGs into DirectX textures. And if I look at in the GitHub desktop, I bet it's removed this. Yeah, here we go. Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, this thing here. So we should have a MonoGame content reference which has been deleted by Ionide when we remove that file. Keep that separate. I don't know why that's happened. Sometimes things just go awry and it's quite hard to report these because they kind of just happen spuriously sometimes. And also reporting things like this and using a small reproduction sometimes gets in the way of actually getting your day-to-day work done. So I bet this just hasn't been reported before. But I bet if I try it again, the content file won't disappear. So back in here, if we hit run, this time it shouldn't throw an exception because it should be able to find the content embedded, right? And got our Skelly on screen again. That glitching of the skeleton's rather annoying. Subpixel. Actually, while we're on, maybe we can fix that really quick. So the new position, movement vector plus speed, float. New pause. So it's going to be vector 2. So we could do, just for the sake of it, I wonder if there's a vector 2 clamp. Oh, there is. Oh, what's a minimum maximum? You can't clamp to integer boundary. So, okay, so we'll do new pause x int. All right, and then pause.y int him as well. So that should give us integers for both of these, and I'm kind of doing this backwards. And then cast that back. Float 32. It's quick. I don't normally use them right pipes, but they're really good for just quick and dirty testing. Get rid of them later on. So now in theory, and I'm getting sidetracked. It's easy to do this part, to do the live reloading of portable code. In theory, if we do this, we shouldn't get any subpixel blurring. So if you look at that now, it doesn't flicker when it moves. Get a bit of juddering there as I think the GC is kicking in with all the text updates and whatnot on the debug console. But now if we zoom in on this, for some reason pan doesn't work when I zoom in. So now if you look on there and I move him about a bit, no matter where we put him, there's no blurring on the rib cage or the eye sockets and things like that. Because we might want to slightly tweak how we round those numbers out. Because it looks like we've got higher left speed than right speed because we're only rounding to the left. I think it's the same as up sort faster than down as well. Anyway, you can see that gets rid of the subpixel blurring. There's probably actually a setting to disable that. But anyway, that's just wanted to prove that that was the case. Fix it properly next time, maybe. So, getting back into enabling this for interpreted reload, what would we need to do? I think if we look at that website again, there is also, I mean, this is the option we want to use when we need porter code, FCS watch porter. So I think we need to do is we need to use a different version, which is look in the source FS Live. I think this is the equivalent of the live tool that comes with Fabulous. Yeah, so there's an FS Live on NuGet as well. So that came out 11 days ago. So this is effectively the same as the Fabulous tool, except it's using this repo which uses FCS watch as a base for it all. So you can see there, there's this, the latest release was adding support for Bolero and Bolero Serve, which copies the DLL to the distribution directory. So I think I've already installed this. Yeah, I've already installed it. So we're going to start to use that. Now, let me think of the syntax. So if I do FS Live, is that the keyword? Yeah. FS Live, and then syntax will be eval and send. Alright, okay, so that's That looks like it's working. And of course it's not. Connection refused. So, connection's refused because we don't have a host. So, how do we get a host? Which is a good question. Not program, so we've got a model, dispatch game, runner. So really at this point we would need to start listening to receive the webhook. I guess we need to go into packet dependencies and we need to add some part code references for the interpreter. So this is part from part code, sends a webhook. So Fabulous also uses part code, so we'll look at GitHub Fabulous. And we'll look at the dependencies. Right, so these are the part references. So we'll grab these. I think we only need the interpreter. I'm not sure. Well, the first thing we need to do is a listener. So if we grab the source directory and then live update and live update class, this is the host listening. This is the host listener that listens to the webhook that FSC Live is going to send. So blah blah blah, and this part here is how we would start our listener for the webhook, so that when things change, this piece of code would execute and it would replace the program. Ours looks slightly different because it's program object unit, because we don't actually return a view because we need to our view's built from scratch each time. So we basically pass various properties and shader elements, or set various shader uniforms to generate each scene every frame, which is 60 times a second normally. Sometimes you do 30 if you've got a physics heavy engine. Sometimes you set it so it would only be 30 frames a second, or the physics would run at 30 frames a second, I think. But then your view would be updated 60 times a second, so you'd have an update function running every 30th of a second, and then the view would be running on 60 frames a second. So what we'll do is we'll just grab the raw code for this and we'll just borrow the whole lot. And if we go in our core project, actually we'll go into inide and we will add a brand new file and we'll just call it live. Go into live, paste that in, and we'll just call it Elimish core still. what we'll call this one. Elimish core. We can call it whatever we want, to be honest. Don't need this. We don't need these two. We need Elimish core. But we're already in there anyway. So we need the code model and the interpreter. There's all this device stuff as well. There's no device abstraction for MonoGame as such. Not the same as Xamarin Forms anyway. Right, okay, so we'll grab the stuff that we need first. So we'll grab these packet dependencies. So I think, what did we need? Code model and interpreter. The thing I don't like about these GitHub dependencies is because we're using FSC live, which includes code model interpreter, then we're doing file references. There's going to be a point where the two are not going to be lined up and it's just going to fail. And unless you build both from source, you're always going to be in a situation where you have to kind of manage compiling code with compiled code, and it's a bit messy, to be honest. So I've never liked that about type providers either, because you've got to include a 6,000 line source file, and it means that every access to type providers basically has to be in one DLL. You can't split it over several. Not well, you can, but it makes it really difficult to manage because there's a whole lot of internal fields in type providers that you might want to have access to in multiple different projects. So that means you kind of have to do all the type provider interop all within a single DLL, which is sometimes is just not ideal. Right, so we'll include both of these in our packet references, packet dependencies. And we also will need soft.json because it uses that for serialization. I think we'll also need FCS as well, because it's using compiler infrastructure. Can't see a reference for that. So I'm not seeing it. Packet dependencies. Maybe there's a different reference to that. Packet references. No? Package targets. It's the way this fabulous project's set up is quite strange. It's not what I'm used to with this package targets. But the package targets have got a version of FCS in there. Anyway, I'm just going to use standard packet. NuGet. So we'll use the same one in there. And code model interpreter. Do packet install. fun start to kick in again with the packet references downloading. Right, so we should have everything we need now. We'll look back into Fabulous and we'll look at source for live update again. A quick peek into this. Yeah, we've got the two. We'll just snaff these two before live. I'll just stuff these two files in while we've got them from Packet. I'm not using neutral, we're just using FS projects. The other file had a neutral group for Packet, so we just want a normal code modeling interpreter. So directory, two directories, Packet files, FS projects, port code, source, code model interpreter. Right, okay. That looks okay. Let me think what else we need. Let's see if core builds. I think it'll fail because there was an error with our view returning a view element, I think. Oh yeah, lots of errors. These two files are there now, so at least there's that. It's device stuff. We don't need any of this device stuff. We'll just assume that we're on a platform that's just going to work. So I'll just drop this back. So this is a broadcast length. Blah, blah, blah. That'll do for that. And this one, Newtonsoft. Why do I have reference to Newtonsoft? We'll just add that in. This should make that reference disappear. Is anything that I'm doing here making sense, Alan? Just that you're quiet in the chat, so I'm assuming you're just following along. Oh, you fell asleep. Okay, cool. I think this should work in theory. So FSI val send. If we go back into here and just run our, we haven't even we haven't added there. Yeah, there's our errors. Blah blah blah. View's not defined. So that's in our view will return a view element, but it doesn't, it returns a unit, as I said earlier. What's wrong with that? Why is that not working? Our program. Let's have a look. Elimish car, Elimish car. Elimish. It's got that Elimish program thing again. Okay, Alan, just checking. Live streams are strange things because there's no audio interaction, so you just get a textual interaction, and sometimes you forget to look at the chat window. I normally have a chat window on the right hand side, but I was trying to give a lot more space to the text, because it's easy to see when all that text on the screen rather than me having super huge font. It's kind of difficult. I find it a bit difficult coding when there's a super massive font. Like on some of the videos, I have the font pumped up quite big so you can see it, because a lot of the views I get are from mobile devices. I think there's about 30% which is on a mobile device, but it's not practical for me to code with my font that big either. So our games actually ran, so I'm assuming that was okay, even though it said there was an error. It's still working. Are we ready to go? I think we are. Let's see if this runs. It'll complain there's no socket connection. Yeah, there's no socket connection, but we'll fire this up, and then we'll run this, and it should get a socket connection. Right, so we've got our nice green screen. Oh, cool. It's good that you can read it. I've got the text slightly bigger than what I normally have, but it's not that much different. I think my zoom is only 1 up. I can't remember where the setting is for code size. That didn't do what I thought it was going to do. So I click zoom and it destroys the window. Right. Good old VS Code. I'll launch that again. Why has this failed? That's weird. That's insane. This is what it's done to my window. Oh well. Don't press zoom on the live stream because it makes the screen the size of a postage stamp. Anyway, I think I normally have my text about that big. I think that big. I just made it a couple bigger. It's difficult because you normally need a couple of monitors, and I normally have. I can't remember what I normally have. I think I normally have this view that big, and I have that view kind of quarter screen, or maybe it's like that. It's kind of how I normally code. Probably pretty much always have that full screen there. I can't remember the commands. I use Spectacle to move my windows about, but I can never remember the command for bottom right hand corner 1/4. So we've got our green screen, and we'll see if we can connect our socket now. Let's see what happens. Connection refused. Yeah, I've never actually made the connection. Right. So go back to our program, and so we've got if debug. I can't remember the syntax for this. Runner, enable live update. Have to do that. So if we're in debug mode, we'll enable live update, which should allow us to connect our socket. See if that's the reality. So I should be starting to record the next episode of the new video for YouTube. Probably going to be starting that today or tomorrow with a view to getting it completed by Thursday. So everybody with early access gets to see it on the Thursday, and then I release it to the public on the Saturday morning like I did last week. So it seemed to be a really good time to do the release, because I got more views than about 4 or 5 times the views of the other video. I don't know whether it was because I splashed it over Reddit a lot more, or whether it was just the actual time. But I'm hoping that this next one will actually be less than 15 minutes, because it takes me ages to do the editing for. Like the last video, it would end up being 20 minutes, but originally it was about 48, and I kept trimming it down. And the screencasts were, I think I had almost an hour of screencasts, and there was about 3.5 minutes of FaceTime. So the FaceTime's really quick to edit, but the screencasts, I either record them as one section and then cut them up and do voiceovers, or I record each segment of the screencast, then do the voiceover for that segment. And then sometimes I do a few passes on the editing phase to get it to trim out all of the junk that you don't need, or sometimes the cursor will be moving on the screen, or I've had to pause the screen when I've been recording, so I end up cutting loads of frames out to try and keep it smooth on the screen. Or sometimes you have to do a lot of cropping on the screen to enlarge it, because I think I record at 2500 by 1440, and then I've got room to crop the screen down to 1080p. So I'll do some of that as well. But it takes a lot of time doing the editing. It'll maybe take 5 hours to do all the editing at least. Last time I had a big problem with Final Cut Pro crashing. I use Final Cut Pro to do all the editing process, and it was just a pain. It kept crashing a lot. I'd done a render to YouTube which took about 15-20 minutes, and every time I tried to do the render it just stopped at the end, and I kind of just got an error code from YouTube and an error code from, I use a program called Compressor which comes with Final Cut to do the rendering, and it was just failing each time, saying that one of the frames was corrupt, but it didn't tell me which frame it was. So I ended up, I think I had 3 or 4 attempts at it. I was trying to find that which frame was mangled, but I failed to find the frame that was mangled. I ended up rendering the whole thing to it's like a 17 gig render output to a ProRes file, and then I used transcoded the ProRes file back into the compressed format that YouTube likes, and then that worked first time. So anyway, I digress. Anyway, that kind of worked, but as you can see from here, you get a message saying that there was no declaration called program or program live update, which is true. So let's have a look. So I think this part here needs to be up above in our module. So now we're hitting a couple of problems, because our update function needs a reference to MonoGame. Well, Elimish MonoGame. which isn't ideal. See, the init function takes an Elimish, actually takes game. Elimish game derives from game, so that's okay. And it takes a unit too. Maybe we could change this so that it does take init like that. Need the game reference. So if we go back into core, and if we change our init to pass in an Elimish game, which we can't because it's defined below. So we grab Elimish game out of there. Let's see, we'll define that first because it's kind of like a core entity. So init takes an Elimish game and returns back a model and a command. Okay. So follow the trail of errors. We've got our start loop, which needs to call init with the Elimish game, which is app. So we'll pass app into there. Last error is this part, the trace console. This is a bit tricky because we don't have any reference to the game anymore. We've only got a reference to program, which has an internal reference to game. So what we'll do is we'll just forget about that for now. Just makes it a bit easier. Go back into our game and we won't bother with the console trace. Who needs it? So now I think ready to go. So if I run this, it should run. And we've refactored slightly so that the init function is passed the Elimish game, which is passed into program. So when we do with run dynamic view this reference to game app, which is an Elimish game, is passed into run with dynamic view. Run with dynamic view calls program runner, which passes it in. Program runner has the app, which we're passing into the init function. So it goes around the trees a bit, but it works. So we've got that. So in theory, we've got a listening WebSocket now, or webhook. So I try to connect again, see what happens. Blah, blah, blah. Ooh, sending to webhook. That's exciting. Alright, so we've actually got, it thinks it's connected. I'll shove this up top corner, half screen, and we'll shove this bottom right. I need to learn my key commands from live streaming. Right, my fan's gone crazy, so something's happening. And now, could do somewhere else but this. It's not really, can't move it about much. If you look at our view, where is our view? So here we go. Looking at our program, we should have our view which sets the colour to yellow green, and we'll set it to sky blue. Save that, and it should go through the infrastructure of portal code, try to interpret it, and try to reload. This exited straight away. FS Live sends. So watch. Evaluate the contents using the interpreter after each update. Send. We definitely need send. Send and watch. Don't know. So this does look like it's sending to the webhook. Look at the console window. There's loads of exceptions. Right. I'm going to pause this. So, null reference exception. This is kind of what I expected to get. I've tried this before with different programs, and I could never get it to work properly, which is a shame. Eval field get the record was null at interpreter line 246. Our car actually has interpreter. So 246. Oh, sorry, John. 246. Silly me. So that was in the middle of raising the exception. Protect eval. So is that a stack trace? So if we go back through the stack, protect eval. It was on a call. I'm going to expand this out a bit because it's not very easy to see. Eval sequential. So it's in the middle of evaluating the method lambda. It wasn't the constructor. This thing gets in the way all the time. Body expression. Oh God. Okay, the body expression was a call to field get. And it's a sequential, which then did a call to field get, which was sequential, a call to another 2 field gets, 2 models. So call, field get, call, field get, call, field get, model. So the model's been accessed. Type parameters. Generic parameters A. That's strange. It's not an instance. So this threw an exception. Protect eval, range, evaluate call. So evaluate call. So what was the line actually called? Eval call? If you have any ideas, Alan, just tell me how to fix it. Method. So what actually is the exception? The record value was null. Okay. Which record value? '86 column 8. Wonderful. So that was our sequential block. Yeah, it's a bit out of my depth as well, because the interpreted code stuff is a bit strange. I know that it maps over the F# task into another format and tries to interpret it. Obviously, because it's an interpreter, but I mean, you can see the various resolving of methods, bind types, and you've got evaluation of traits, you've got mapping of binary operations, shift operations logic, exception processing, evaluating a context, so that's looking inside an assembly, grabbing the members of assembly, trying to resolve them. It does look like there's lots of things that aren't finished. Yeah, to do fix all the bugs. Resolve entity, resolve types. So it's resolving our types into our field infos. Make a resolved method value for a method info. So this is converting method infos into the union stuff that's defined for the interpret method. So this is the stuff that actually starts to do things, interpreting the code, I think. So you're grabbing a method, resolve method. So these are getting method infos for various entities like constructors and things like that, declarations. So it's basically going through the F# tree and extracting method infos for different methods and things like that. Try eval expression. Eval expression. So let's get dress off. So maybe some of these are incomplete. Ah, yeah, there are some here. New delicate quote, address set, object expression, union case, ilasm, field sets, field set, very rare. Constants. I don't think it's an unrecognized expression, so it is one that's been dealt with. I'll just let it go and see what happens. Yeah, it's still erroring. Unable to evaluate view. The record was null. Eval context. So this is the thing that people tell you, that in F# you never get nulls, but it's a lie, because you do. You don't get as many, and when you do, it makes you scratch your head. Sometimes a little bit more than in C#. I'll do a little bit longer on this, but I'll keep going on with the stream until for another quarter of an hour, until 6 o'clock my time, and then I'll call it a day. I'm not sure that we'll be able to solve this, but we'll try and look through a couple of things. I think it's going to be one of those projects where it takes quite a while to solve it, and maybe you have to involve other people that actually know what they're doing. So eval stack locations, location stack. So we do get location stack. So we know it's them bunch of method calls here. Record get, eval field get. So I'm guessing it's trying to get game, sprite batch, player, and sprite batch, because it was looking like it was expression get, sequential, and then 3 more field gets, which would kind of tie in with this block. We can probably test it by, if we just comment this out and just, our view doesn't actually do anything. Set that off again. So we are hitting one of the wildcards. The type isn't one of them that's specifically down. It's a different type of constant. So what is it? Constant type R. The debugger's really flaky. So this is Microsoft F# core unit. So why wouldn't that be constant? Maybe that should be added to the constant list as well. So that's going to be, it's going to change its type from this type, from null to unit, and put it inside a value. But constant value null, constant type. I wonder if this is where the issue is, because we're trying to convert a null to a unit. Oh, the constant type actually is. Yeah, it's an F# core unit. I mean, there isn't an exception associated with that. But it was following that call. I've got a feeling this is going to be really tricky to debug. A unit type is pretty common, and also the signatures in Fabulous for init and dispatch do take units. So I think that constant for a unit was correctly. Where's constant value passed in? I think it came from we'll let it run again. I think it'll fail again. Constant value is coming from evaluate expression. So this will be the evaluate expression block, which is big. Yeah, it is. Evaluate expression. So there's an expression coming in. The expression is null. Name type Microsoft F# unit. So I think an F# unit has null as its actual value. Well, it does here anyway. Unit. Well, let's have a quick look. Visual. I know there's a new repo for this, but let's quickly look in here. So I think inside source F# core, I think primitive types should have unit defined. But it's just defined as a normal type. There could be a specific fancy action happening on it where it's represented by an actual null. It can be created though. Oh no, that's just the create instance code. I think we're getting sidetracked anyway. We've only got about 10 minutes left. So let this run again. So it's failing to convert that. Or rather, it's dealing with the default converter, changing from null to a unit. And it's not failing on that anyway. Change type. Yeah, it's just CLR code. Yeah, it could be if it doesn't have a value, it gets represented as null. I think this is okay for now. I think it just caught my eye that there could be a wildcard clause that was causing this null reference later on. I kind of let that go, and see we're not hitting this fail wave, which would be an expression type that's not being represented. It could be that constant's wrong, but see there was a previous line of code where it just is the value is represented by itself. There isn't actually conversion there. You can kind of come back to this if it happens, but it's actually failing on eval field get. So go in here, eval field get, eval field get. Stick a breakpoint in, see what happens. Ah, suddenly something's changed. Variable type A not found. So I'm kind of thinking this is because we changed our program and it's kind of caught up with it. Because we've done this, dispatch A, that's mysterious. Variable type A not found. Dispatch A. That's a bit too much of a coincidence, I think. We'll go back into variable type A not found. Why would it be looking for A? If I scroll up to the beginning of these variable A messages, there should be, if what I said's true, that it's caught up and it's evaluating that new view which just has unit. I see that's, I've lost the console. Variable type. So it must be film on this. Yeah, there we go. Variable type not found. Variable type V is A. What is A? Type A. So this is matching variable type. Before that, it's resolve type. So we've got types. Can we see types? No. See types now. So we've got our model and type A. Model with type A. So that is the same, isn't it? Model with type A. Dispatch. So it can't figure out what type dispatch is. Yes. Okay, well, we'll give dispatch a type. Unit. I can't remember what the type is. Hang on. Dispatch. Where do we put post dispatch in? So the view update. Well, where's the view update? Update view. Update view. Last view. Unit. Message unit. Okay. MSG unit. Right, so we'll type it in properly. So we've got a dispatch. Set that off running again. Variable not found. As far as I know, it's still reporting that error. Yeah, where's A coming from? Interpret method. Formal environment. Nothing. Entity is the application. App. Method name. View. See, it is in the view. Parameter types. A. It definitely ties in with the fact that it's updating the view, but it doesn't kill it though. It simply prints that the variable's not found. But it should be looking... Why would it be looking for A? It's looking inside the environment for it. So the environment's actually empty. So it's a D variable type. It doesn't have any redeeming properties other than a string for its name, which isn't very useful. So we've got types there. You can't see what that is. Go back to the stack. 1. Yeah, so it's still type A. Go back another one. And our method name view. Again. View. Archetypes. Variable A. Right. What we'll do, go back in program and get rid of that. See, that was instant there. Null reference, field get. So that was pretty fast. I don't know why it couldn't find. Maybe it couldn't find it because... I don't know. It's peculiar. Well, so now we're getting into why the field gets null. I think that type A not found was a bit of a wild goose chase, but it could have been because that wasn't annotated. Most of the way up the stack, you'd get to the top lambda call. Actually, it goes on for quite a while. I think this is... It'll go down to the first invoke, eval lambda. Yeah, so this will be on a different thread, I think. Update view. Yes, it's done the update view. Is it interpreted that? I don't know. Eval lambda. This will be, if it is right up there, then it'll be a large expression. So it's a entity reference, the app with 3 types. D type, 2 D types with 0 parameters and 1 with 2. 1 with 2 is model and dispatch. So if you look at dispatch, mutable range, string dispatch, model. This little pokey view is annoying. You can actually hack the CSS to change it, but every time VS Code updates, it can sometimes get overwritten. So anyway, this is a constructor make function, evaluate lambda. So this is making a function type from domain type V, range type V. Then it's creating another function. Oh, it's making a generic type. Then it's making a function using that generic type, which takes an argument, which is an object, and then it binds a new environment to the lambda, I think. Then it evaluates the expression, which is, oh, that's just killed it. Ooh, that's not good. Sigabort, corpse notify, it's died. That's nice. It's very rare I get these with .NET, but that could be some sort of Stack Overflow. It was paused in the debugger though, which is odd. Anyway, that's died quite good. This is actually it's the executable which has failed. Let's try something quickly. Hey, what's happened here? It erased that file again. Oh, that's really annoying. I bet it has. If we go in our test project, yeah, the content file's disappeared again. Why is it keeping removing it? See, that removed that file, but nothing had actually happened. I didn't tell it to remove anything. I didn't tell it to add a file, remove a file, rename a file. All that happened was the program crashed, then I reran it, and then that content line had disappeared. So that program's running. Nice sky blue. We connect up with that. It's connected. Null reference. So what is actually null? So we're matching a field. We're matching a field called game. So I can't find game. Actually, let's follow this. Item 3 is game. Item 2 is model. So I'm guessing that this is a union field. Union field, is that right? I don't actually know what these things mean. I'm just trying to make up as I go, but it's a union type field. There's an integer. I wish the debugger was better. So field R, it's a U field. Number 2 is item 1. Yeah, I don't know why that was disappearing, that content line. I can imagine that there's some sort of processing occurring on the project file somewhere and it's removing it, but it's really annoying with MonoGame because if you remove the content inclusion, then your content cannot be found when the game loads. Yeah, so first field's the integer 2, the second one's the model, the third field is game. So it's U field 2 model game. So NM is game. NM is game, I think. So what would a 2 stand for? So what is a U field? A U field is an int of resolved type and string. A resolved field. So what's the difference between a U field and an R field? An R field is just a member info. A U field is an int of a resolved type and a string. It's kind of helpful if you know what a U field is, but I don't. So the op type V is null. So op type V is null. So this line is coming back null. Yeah. Field V is what we matched on. Field R. Why did I say V? So it is resolving our field from a record type class, which is the model, and the field info, which is game. So I'm guessing this one's resolving game from the record model, which sounds right. But for whatever reason, this line here, evaluate expression option, comes back null. So that means that when this matches, it's coming hitting null. To do, for struct records, this should return the default value. To me, it kind of looks like this part is incomplete. Or this line is incomplete. So it's possibly that this is not working properly, which would mean that that is not working properly. So if we breakpoint this guy, run it through again, step into expression. So it's a value. Let's see which one it is. So it's not this value, it's not mutable. It's going to look inside the environment to try and find one with the name model. The environment has a model and its value is null. So at this point, it's going to return the value, which is null. So for whatever reason, the environment for model is null. Or the model in the environment is null, rather. I think it's going to take a bit more debugging and maybe filing some issues and a report to try and figure out what's missing. I'm kind of guessing that whatever fills the environment when it's been interpreted is missing our view out, or the model that we're using out. But the model isn't particularly complicated. The model contains a player, which is defined here, game time, game, and the sprite batch. We kind of needed to put the game time inside here so that we know how much of our game has elapsed, so we can determine how much animation we need to render. We kind of need the game because we need to initialize and load content, which is contained inside the content manager inside the game instance. And we need the sprite batch because we need to start a particular type of drawing call which will draw our sprites, which we've loaded in the sprite sheet. I can only think what we could do is modify this to not have as much stuff inside it and see if it still works. I mean, you can't get away from the fact that we need to be able to access the game somehow, because the way that MonoGame works is the game instance has some properties to, like this, to be able to access the content manager that's associated with it, and also things like the graphics device. To create a sprite batch, we need the graphics device for the game. And if we go back right up here, we create a graphics device manager inside our game, which is associated with an instance of itself. So it kind of sets up the internal graphics context. So it's not really possible to remove all that. We could modify, I mean, if we needed to, we could modify update to pass the message, the model, and the game. But it's kind of a bit messy because we kind of want to keep the way it works the same. We've already modified slightly by making init take a game, because otherwise there's no real way that this stuff here inside our app module can know anything about the game other than via the entry point, via init. The only other way of doing it would be to add another subscription, which would dispatch the game somehow into a message, so that when we got a message, you'd have to create like an init message here, which is really messy. So I don't really want to change anything like that. So I think one thing we could do, although not today, I'm going to have to call this a day in a minute, is to modify this to create a minimal repo to find out why the model's null inside the environment. It could be that when the interpreter runs right at the very beginning, there must be a call which adds something to the environment, and it's resulting in it being null. Like something around here. There's our environment. So these vals, that's what was null. Oh, hang on, empty environment, bound by name. So it would be whatever is generating these. So I think the key would be following these calls to find out why the model is null. But I'm going to call it a day there because it's almost 6:20, and I hope you enjoyed the stream, and thank you very much for supporting me, and I'll kind of call it a day there.